What's up, everybody? I told you it's gonna be big, and it gets no bigger than hanging out with my girl, man. Leah's Lemonade. Everything you need and more is right here. Let's go.
Well, I wish I could give you the tea, but mine's just a little bit tart, and that's why it's called Leah's Lemonade. And lemonade stand, honey. I've been trying to get this interview for 25 years. If you follow me on social media, then you know that I'm at Rock City every single weekend, virtually at least. So, Pastor Mike Jr., thank you so much for coming by the lemonade stand.
What's up, man? I'm here for the tea, tea and the lemonade.
We're going to get into all that. And let me just say this too. I saw you last at Essence Fest on the stage. And one thing you said to me is, you go, are you on the stage this year? And one thing about what you say goes straight to God ears. So I wasn't on the stage this year, but next year PMJ said it. I'm on the stage.
We claiming that, girl. We claiming it in Jesus' name. How you been?
I've been good. How are you?
I'm blessed, man. Of course, man. It's winning season. And we wait to see what God doing next. He's showing out.
I mean, listen, we can watch it on the Stellars August 6th because my man came in and clean swept it.
That's right. It's been a big year, man. We're taking home 8 awards this year. But I tell everybody, the number that is so special to me is that we're close to 3,000 souls saved at Rock City this year. That's a blessing. And speaking of the Stellar Awards that'll be airing August 6th on BT, I was excited because our church's media department was able to take home music video of the year. So, man, when I tell you everybody around me winning, it's winning season, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Artist of the Year 3 years in a row. I don't think that's very much heard of. A three-peat, one for the Father, one for the Son, and one for the Holy Ghost. Right. Come on, PJ. I think there's just so much to dive in about you, and I don't know if this is because I go to watch your church, and so I know a lot about you. But I think that you are such a diverse person in the sense of like your artistry, your background, how you came up. I mean, there's just so much to dive into. So you're clergy with a civil rights lineage. Talk to me about the anxiety sometimes that you have, or maybe the unsaid pressure you feel to stand on the shoulders in which you come from. Not even just as a pastor, but I mean, your grandfather was somebody. So like, how does that feel when you come to like, who you are?
Yeah, I tell everybody, man, you either run from it or you run to it. Sadly, so many people run from the pressure. For some reason, I get excited embracing it, man. I tell everybody, I stand on the shoulders of giants. My grandfather was a civil rights icon. My dad was a pastor. So as a child, there was always this pressure on us. I tell everybody to be an African-American man in today's culture means you're under surveillance, but you're also invisible. They watch everything you do, but don't pay attention to nothing you're doing at the same time. So for me, man, I've always felt that microscope, but I embraced it, man. What better way to live than to know there are two important days in your life: the day you were born and the day you realize why. For me, I quickly embraced my why. So it brings life and joy to me to see. My granddaddy called me the other day. He was like, boy, gosh, that was the best call of the year to me, man. So I embrace it, and I can't wait to see what type of legacy I can leave for my boys to try to live up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of your family, if you watch Rock City or if people have seen clips on social media, one thing you're not shy about is your family. You use your life a lot so people feel comfortable, I think, in your church. And so, you're always very open about, having your first child out of wedlock and kind of being a blended family. Why was it so important for you as a pastor to highlight that and to share that so much?
Because I mean this, man. So many people feel imprisoned by their mistakes. You know what I'm saying? And what I've discovered is so many people die in their 20s, but they're not buried until their 70s. And it's because of the decisions they made in their 20s and their 30s, and they're living in this prison of people's opinion, and they don't know how to turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So for me, one of the things I wanted to be very transparent about is my deficiencies. Hey guys, God's used me, but I haven't always gotten it right. Man, I had a child out of wedlock. I deal with anxiety, wrestle sometimes with depression. And what I'm trying to get to understand is, hey guys, look at me. I'm normal. I have these struggles. But I also see where God is moving in my life. And what I understand is here's some good lemonade for everybody following right now. The culture tends to correct those who think too much of themselves. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens is the culture will always chip at your confidence. Why? Because whenever the devil can't take your competence, he will take your confidence. See, the problem isn't you don't know what you're doing. The problem sometimes is you don't think you're worthy to be doing it. So what I wanted to do is re-embrace the idea that you should be confident about what you are. God asked Samuel, how long are you going to mourn over what happened to Saul? There's a new transition happening right now. And so for me, I'm gonna always be transparent because I discovered, and you're gonna like this, Leah, there are more people like you than there are more people different from you. There are more people wrestling with what you wrestle with. But what does the devil do? He makes you think that something's wrong with you. Because if he can keep you quiet, you won't bring a whole generation out. Never forget, Goliath turned to the people of God and said, I'm going to send out a champion. I'm going to kill him. David, in turn, looked at the Goliath and said, I'm going to kill you and this army. Because David's assignment was not just to get victory over Goliath. He was concerned about bringing everybody connected to him out. And we got to make sure we keep the focus.
See, I can't even do this interview because you talk, and I be so into it, I forget where I'm at. You see, I'm over here shaking my head like I'm at church.
Oh man,
it's giving Rock City on a
we are
right. Rock City, baby. Okay. So let's talk about I think one of the things that's very interesting about you, particularly, and I think I said this to you when I first met you, but I think that it's so interesting that you did go to Yale Divinity, and I think that the way that you contextualize the Bible when you preach is a clear indication and illustration of what you've learned through that process. Talk to me about that, because I think as we see, you're one of the few, and this is no shade, but you're one of the few people who I think that are like super viral, like super popular pastors, but have that background in divinity. So why do you think that that's important in today's preaching for that divinity background?
Yeah, I think it is. It's in the same way that there are certain people. It depends on. I want to say this right, because the greatest communicator on the face of the planet to me, who is Bishop T.D. Jakes, didn't go to seminary. So I think there are exceptions to the rule. For me, I needed context. So for me, it helps me make sure my context is right. But some of the greatest lessons I learned, I didn't learn in a classroom. I learned from just searching and studying the word for myself, man. So for me, I try my best to be sound. My generation, we keep hearing this thing. My brother said this and it blessed me. We keep hearing them say content is king, content is king. But that's a double entendre, because even in the text it says, I will be content. Content. And most people are trying to make content for the masses to see when they're not content where God has them. So for me, man, I just want to make sure as I go viral, it's also sound. I can be clear on what I believe, because there's an epidemic happening right now, a disbelief in the African American culture. When you look at people leaving the Black church, when you look at all the things that's happening, people are searching for answers. And I just want to make sure I do my part to bring clarity to what people are struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true, especially for millennials, my generation. Looking for answers outside of that. But one of the things that you coin yourself on is bringing younger people back to the body of Christ. So I love that. Okay, now again, we know the viral success, you're killing the game right now. But what do you wish more people knew about Michael? Not PMJ, not Pastor Mike, but what do you think, what do you wish more people knew about Michael at his core and essence?
Now, this is gonna be so funny when I say this. What you see is what you get. And I think that's why I'm resonating with so many people, because Michael is Pastor Mike Jr. I think the biggest misconception about Pastor Mike Jr. is how outgoing I am. I'm a homebody. I'm when I tell you I'm a hobbit, you give me a good movie, I can be in the house all day. I don't have to go nowhere. But for the most part, what you see is what you get. I'm silly. I'm funny. I love telling jokes. I love talking about movies. And so for me, what you see for the most part is what you get. If you hung with me, this is what you would get all day. Inspiration, jokes, laughing, all that.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah.
So dive into this album because I mean it is critically acclaimed, award winning. So we got to get into it. Now some of these questions, one thing that I like to do with artists is I tend to listen to the body of work one time through, give you my initial thoughts or things that stuck out to me. So I'm gonna go song by song for as much time as we got and kind of get your thoughts, your creative process, or just something that stuck out to me. So number one, counting my blessings, the voice in the beginning, where did that come from? And also, whose idea was it for you to count in Spanish?
All right, so listen, so we're in the studio, so you got to keep in mind how special this album is to me. I rented out the studio, shout out to Audio State right here in Birmingham, Alabama. I rented it out for 2 weeks and said basically 7 days. I was like, we're going to do the album in 7 to 8 days. So I had got restless in the studio and I had been watching Ray Charles. That's one of my favorite movies. So I had these black glasses. So I went into the studio and I was like, you know what? I'm not like the rest of you cats. You dig? I'm gonna just count these blessings, man. And we liked it and we kept it. And as far as counting in Spanish, this is no lie. And I'm gonna send you the video, man, so you can have it on your stream. I'm at the office, and D-Lo, that's the producer who produced it, he comes to the church. He says, I got some tracks, check them out. He presses play. And the first time he presses play, I said, uno, dos, tres. And it just came to me, it was the Holy Spirit. And that's how we kept counting my blessings. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, okay, we getting bilingual on this thing. Okay. Number two, winning. When I met you, I told you that, you know, I kind of got a Kirk Franklin essence from you, especially when I interviewed him. I've seen a lot of similarities. One of the things that I told you this when I met you is I think that your ensemble has like one of the clearest unisons, period. Like it's so pure, it sounds like one voice. And that's very similar to Kirk. I told him that too. Like between you and Kirk Franklin, y'all's ensembles unison is insane. And then on winning, that's what I hear the most. How do you find the perfect unison blend? Is it stacked vocals or is like practicing to make sure that all of your singers are on that unison note?
Yeah, I got to give that shout out 100% to 3 people. That's Amanda Gentry and Adia who did the back. So keep in mind throughout the whole album, when you hear those females singing, that's only 2 girls.
Wow.
I like to keep it tight and we stack it a lot. And one of the brothers who's the mastermind behind helping me do that is Curtis Glenn. You know, so I bring Curtis in to make sure those notes, those harmonies, those blend. His ear is freaky good when it comes to hearing like idiosyncrasies and that blend. So we take that very, I'm glad you appreciate that. We take that.
I do.
Yeah.
I do because I think, you know, in the church we do a lot of rifting and running and stuff, but that clean unison is impactful on the track. Anyway, you know, I'm a previous choir member, so you know I be peeping stuff like that. Now, number 3, so good. One of my favorite songs on that album because it's just a vibe. It's like
absolutely.
It's like, so what was your process creating that? Like, was that just like this is gonna be my feel good vibe song?
Yeah. So shout out to KP and the colleagues. When he sent me the track, I was like, and so I started writing it. And I just wanted that bounce, that feeling that you just turn on and you can just ride all day to. And here's some inside information. The song was done and I was in the studio playing too much. And so literally he said playback. And when the song came on, it was empty. So I was like, said you shouldn't judge a book by the cover, call me lucky. Only still alive because he's so good. And he was recording. So then, all right, you want to hear it? I was like, hear what? He was like, do it again. And we heard it. I was like, I'm going to keep that. So people actually, I had a lot of people tell me, who was that rapping in the beginning? I was like, that was me. They're like, what effect you put on your voice? I said, I was sleepy. So it was, that's the story behind that part.
Yeah, that song makes me feel so good. I love that song. Okay, number 4, One Prayer. How did the Tamala Man collaboration come about?
All right, so I wrote one prayer. I wrote one prayer. So here's the beautiful thing about one prayer. I can't really play the keyboard. The Lord literally gave me 3 chords. I played that part. And so when I wrote one prayer, I was like, man, we got to figure it out. We were in the studio and Adia said, you should get Tamala Man on this. And in my head, I was like, she's not gonna do that. And I shot David Man a text. He was like, hey, we're coming through Birmingham in a day or 2.
Wow.
He came through on the tour bus, went to the studio, knocked it out, and that's how it came about. That easy, just with relationships.
Wow, relationships and alignment. We love that.
Yep.
Now, Amazing. Was it difficult to get that sample cleared?
The truth is I never got it cleared. So literally we kept working through trying to get it cleared, man, and they wouldn't budge. So here's a backstory. I don't get any publishing from the song Amazing. That's been one of the biggest songs ever. But to me, it was a risk I wanted to take. In my head, I was like, I feel like the message of the song is gonna bless so many people that God to give it back to us in other ways. So that's one of the things that where we kept going through the proper channels. And it wasn't Gnarls Barkley. It was people who actually wrote it. So the originators of that, we couldn't get that part clear. So to this day, I sit back and be like, Lord have mercy.
I know every time you hear it on the radio, get a spin.
Every time I be like, Lord. But at the end of the day, that's a message to some entrepreneurs and some dreamers. Sometimes you got to count the cost and be like, okay, I had one person tell me, no way I would have dropped that song if I couldn't have got it cleared. Well, millions of streams later and hundreds of thousands of people's lives changed later. And I'll be able to sing that song on concerts for the rest of my life. I felt like that was a good compromise. Say, hey, let's keep the vision going.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, my pastor got multiple songs on the radio, so he ain't got to even he ain't gotta sweat that one. Okay, he ain't got to sweat that one. Okay, that's easy work. Okay,
Easy work.
Okay, now we got to talk about Impossible, which is probably arguably like one of the biggest songs by you. And, when I hear this song in the beginning, it gives me classic James Fortune sound, especially in the beginning. Like it's classic James. You talk a lot about your mom being sick and, you circle that, you talk about that. But what is another time in your life that maybe people don't know about where you feel like God did the impossible for you?
It's my whole story, man. And before I answer that, shout out to James Fortune. When I wrote Impossible, you got to keep in mind, I wrote Impossible before Big Drop. We've been singing Impossible at our church for 5 years, but the Holy Spirit told me to hold the song. He said, Michael, Big is prophetic. That's what I'm doing. Impossible will be your response to Big. So instead of putting Impossible on the album, I just held it. The difference is once I start understanding how radio works, I was like, okay, we got to make it a song.
Yeah.
And that's when I called James. I said, James, I want to do this. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
By the time I woke up from my nap, James was like, hopeless
and confused. Yes.
I still don't know how,
Yes.
So but again, it's my Impossible isn't a song, it's my life, man. To take 10 friends and walk into an empty room in 2009 and God turn it into Rock City Church. That's the impossible. They tell us that we have to do this. If we want to make it big, you got to move to Atlanta or Nashville. To do it from Birmingham, that's the impossible. So for me, man, impossible isn't just a song, it's a way of life. From healing my mother, from Dre, the person I went to middle school with, winning the Stellar Award for Music Video of the Year, from Tiffany, who started with us with the church, and now she's flipping properties all over. That's impossible. So if you look throughout our DNA, I'm gonna even speak prophetically. Next year, when you're curating and doing content at Essence, that's gonna be another impossible story. And for me, that's what we do well. Is tying it together. Like even sitting here and the people who run our media department at the church on the other side of the camera, and they already looking up all your stuff. I'm like, no, she can be doing this for the church. And that's another way of think about if you were doing recaps. Hey, the series winning, and you're talking to D and talking to different people. And I think what we try to do is how do we take this platform we call Rock City and how do we highlight those connected to it who number one love God, love the church, but are also pregnant with vision. And that's what it is. So Impossible ain't just a song. It's what we're seeing God do on a day-to-day basis here at Rock City.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I think it's impossible when people talking about how can I get my hotel room? Because I ain't gonna lie, I ran up on past that Essence and I said, let me know when y'all gonna open this church so I can get my
no,
I
that's
ain't trying to get the high rates because the rates gonna jump up when he announced the church opening.
And we're gonna have to make sure we tie you in. You're gonna have to cover it. We're gonna have to bring lemonade in to cover it.
Listen, I will come down and show my church what the lemonade stand has to offer. Amen. Okay, so number 7, Mr. McClure and Windows. What made you experiment with that throwback sound for those songs? It was so interesting when that song came out and the video came out. I was like, that's different.
everybody, to me, I just never want to be boxed in. I'm allergic to limitations. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? So for me, I was like, it's so many elements to myself, and I wanted to make an album. Now I'm gonna say this, and people always laugh when I say it. I never made my album for the world. I
Mm.
made my album for Rock City. And if the world decides to peek in, they can peek in. That's why if people don't like it, they just don't like it. Me and my circle love it. I
And
wanted to create music that embodied my personality. So if you look at Count My Blessings, Winning and So Good, that's PMJ. Black Sheep Freestyle,
mm,
that's PMJ. Done, that's PMJ. When you see Impossible and One Prayer and Big, that's Pastor Mike Jr. When
okay.
you see Mr. McClure and Windows, that's actually Mr. McClure. That's my
Mhm.
James Brown side.
Okay.
So I wanted to create some music, and it started out with my grandma saying, "You ought to make some music for us." So,
Right.
so that was that. So I always just want to explore new options. I'm getting ready now to explore Afro beats and say
Okay.
what would so good sound like on an Afro beat track? What would so like I'm finna toy over the next 7 days of turning the entire Impossible album into an Afro beats album. Like what would that sound like to hear that section? So I just never want to be boxed in. And that's the same way I'm gonna push that on everybody who follows me at Rock City. Like Leah's Lemonade Stand is a podcast. It can be radio, it can be audio. You can do your own version of your playlist. Here go the playlist from Leah's Lemonade. And,
Yeah.
and again, and it's how do I continue to expand on what God gave me? Think about this. God never in the history of the world made a house. He never in the history of the world made a chair. He never in the history of the world made a table. God made trees, and
Mm.
it's up to us to get the most out of them. So, what is God giving you, and how can I extract from that everything's God given me?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? It's crazy you answered that because literally that was what one of my questions was going to be at the very end, which was I feel like there's so many components to who you are and
Yeah,
each part of the album definitely highlights a specific part.
it
Okay,
do.
let's get to Never Leave. Kiara Sheard, how we circle with her. I know y'all have multiple songs together, so
So Never Leave, I didn't write Never Leave. Never Leave was written by John Houston, John Smith, and it just blessed my life, man. When I heard the song on his EP, I was like, bro, you gotta let me cover that joint, because again, there I believe that there is so much potential left on the table because of the arrogance of creators to think you have to do it alone.
mm,
You know what
wow.
I'm saying? So for me, when I heard Never Leave, I was like, bro, you gotta let me cover this song. And when he did it, I was sitting there and shout out to Slate. Slate was like, you and Kiki ought to jump on this. And
Mm,
I was like, oh, let's do it because I had just did miracles with her.
right.
And so I thought that was dope. And I always tell everybody if me and Key ever do an EP together, that would be crazy,
Shut the
man. So
city down. Shut it
I
down.
know. Shut it down. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and kind of speaking of that, going into Able, which y'all sing a lot of Rock City, so I begin my life every time. But I think that song showcases your ability to ensure that your team wins because we see Terrell. Well,
Yeah.
but I know that's not his stage name, but Terrell, and sorry Terrell if you in there. But
Hey,
is he in there? Hey
wait,
team.
there he is over there.
Hey. But you put them on the song. Talk to me about the importance of as Pastor Mike wins, the team winning and everybody who supports you day to day winning.
Yeah, that's absolutely important to me. You know that more than anything, man. I just always want my life to be a life of giving, and giving just isn't financial. It's also of your time, your service, and your opportunities. So here's the backstory that nobody knows. I had did Able and it was done. And
Right.
I had took Terrell's part off because we couldn't find a way to kind of make it. We had messed up the tracking of it and we couldn't find it. We were in a mixing session and we had lost the whole file.
Dang.
So I went back and I was like, no, we got to make this work. So we went back and started kind of editing because again, I felt like this would be a huge opportunity for Tavinci and for Adia. And it turned out really, really great. And here's some inside trader information. The song we were looking at dropping with Terrell was Trust, I Will Trust You, I think, right, T? I Will Trust You. And so it was gonna be a segue to that song. But then
Oh,
he dropped that EP and it just went off, man. So I'm excited about that. And you know that, man. Always getting a chance to do what I do with the people I love is always important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it too because again, people who may not know this, but you just have a team of people who you continue
Yeah,
to always make sure are
yeah,
getting these opportunities with you, who are eating with you. And I think
yeah,
that's important to showcase just because, you know, again, what does winning look like with the whole team? You know what I mean? What does that look like? Um,
absolutely.
Now, number 10, which is my favorite song on the album. I'm a Baptist girl, so you and Mama tore that all the way down, tore it down. Why was it important to feature your mom on this album?
You know that story, man. My mom almost lost her life, sepsis, which is an infection in the blood. So for me, it was when God allow her more time. I wanted to give her what she always wanted. She always wanted to sing. My mama was the lady who was singing solos at everybody church. But
Mm,
you know, back in the day, studio equipment wasn't as technology wasn't it what it is right now. I can record a whole album right here on my laptop with the systems and the right interfaces. Back then, you had to go to a studio. Everything was expensive. You need to get signed to a record label to get inside the stores. So to do that with her was a blessing. Shout out to Jason Claiborne and Bart Orr. That's who I wrote and produced that song with. So you got to have some good church, man. I don't care where you from. I'm urban as all get out, but you cut that organ on, we going to church. We going to church.
listen, okay, when the church opened, just play that one time for me. Roll that back. Have Mama come out for me because I love that song. It's my favorite. Gave me all my church scratches for that. Okay, Black Sheep Freestyle. My friend pointed this out, and I didn't think about this, but she said the Black Sheep Freestyle reminded her of old school Drake.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
That's my thing. Like, so it's so many layers to me, man. When I tell you, I probably got 25 to 30 hip hop type songs in my playlist right now that I never even released because that was kind of my thing. I got a lot of Drake style songs in me. But
Okay.
yep, what I was going for, man. I love bars, I love rapping. Believe it or not, if you want to know the secret sauce to who I am as a preacher, it's my father, Ari Vernon. You're gonna hear TD Jakes in there with the storytelling. You're gonna hear some old school Baptists if I get excited. But then I also put into that gumbo Kevin Hart and Steve Harvey. The way they because comedians are nothing but preachers, if you really think about it, and the way they tie runs together. You think of Bernie Mac, I ain't scared of y'all. So and so, so and so, I ain't scared of y'all. If you think preaching context, that's a run. And God said, This is your season. Get ready for other, this is your season. Those are runs. And then
Wow.
the other element is battle rap.
Mhm.
I love battle rap. So number one, those are some geniuses. The way they do triple and quadruple and double entendres and the way they look at things, but then also the way they research. So for me, when it comes to my music, there's an element where I just like to sit down and talk. And I like making music for the hood. Again, I like reaching men. You know what I'm saying? Like so many times the church has excluded men. And so for me, I just had a dude on my story about 3 days ago smoking a cigar, listening to Black Sheep Freestyle. And I shared it, and he inboxed me. Was like, I didn't think you would share it. I was like, no, man, I'm glad I can reach you. So I just want to always kind of embrace all of who I am. So I'm glad she caught that. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, yeah. She was like, "Yo, you didn't think that sounded like old school dress?" And I said, "Dang, I didn't think about that." But you know what? I'm sure gonna
Yeah,
ask him about
that,
it. So
that was it. Yep.
accomplished. Okay, a chew. Let's talk about the bite on the front, the speech. Why was that important to you?
On a chew, I
Mhm.
I just wanted to make it one. I love dropping messages, and I wanted to find a way to get my dad on the album. So shout out to Snipe. Snipe, who's produced for J. Cole, he's produced for Chris Brown. Snipe is so accomplished. He's in LA right now, but he's from Birmingham. So I hit him up and was like, man, I want to do this on the album. And within a day, he sent me the track. So that was just a blessing to get my dad's message on that. You can't tell. He think he need a Stella. I gotta add my dad to the list. He was on the front part of that. He think he get a Stella for album
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the year.
yeah, yeah. Just let them keep one. You have enough. Let them keep one at
Yeah,
his house.
exactly.
A couple. You could spare a couple.
Hmm.
Okay, let's talk about done. There's a line that you say, "You better pray I never tell my side of the story." What's a story you've always wanted to clear up, but you felt like it was too late?
I'm gonna leave that no comment, man. I think it's Done is a special song because again, making it in this industry, sometimes you have to go with narratives that ain't true.
Mm,
And a lot of times people take credit for stuff they really didn't have no hand in. But
mm,
you notice sometimes sharing your truth will cost you in the end.
mm.
And you have to weigh out, is it even worth it? The
Yeah.
people who know, the people who don't should know. So for me, when I say it done, uh even when it comes down to even this past weekend at the Stella Awards,
Mm,
uh I got a crash course on sometimes it's better to not meet some of your heroes. Sometimes, everybody, and you're gonna see this when I preach Sunday. I'm preaching Sunday and I made a statement that sometimes your winning triggers other people's insecurities. So for me, I had to in that song done. It's like I'm done with people pleasing. I'm done with living to other people's opinion.
yeah.
I'm done covering stuff that
Mm,
ain't got nothing to do with me. And that's why I even said that you better pray I never tell my side of the story. Because again, at the end of the day, man, it's so many people out there. This is what's crazy. Um, there are so many individuals who have an assumption of you
mm,
based off of people's lies
mm,
that your truth could completely destroy. But your truth also ain't even necessary because if I be still and let God keep fighting these battles,
mm.
they will ultimately be mine. So you know how that is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's, regardless, it's gospel music and it's to save souls and uplift. It's still in the very devil heavy music industry. Okay, so I'm
I,
already I'm already
I discovered it's the music industry, not the music ministry.
Come on, PMJ. Come on, PMJ. All right. And last song, Not Jesus. Now I'm not gonna lie. I'm a church girl through and through. And when I heard this song, I 100% agree with everything it said, but it made my traditional church mind clutch my pearls. Cause I was like, "Ooh, the saints
Yeah.
gonna feel a way about this one." Was there any fear about putting that song out?
Yeah, and I still think it hasn't been properly heard either. Like the
Mm-hmm.
people who rock with me have heard it. But we got a whole plan we're gonna roll out around Black History Month with Not Jesus. And it's gonna the imagery. By the time I turn T.O. loose on that imagery, that's one that I'm gonna give him. By the time I turn him loose on that imagery, my whole idea for that is walking into a museum and it's the different portrayals of who they think Jesus is. So to me, I think we got to deal with that because again, that picture that's been in grandma's house for years, that ain't Jesus.
Oh, ain't.
That's not Jesus. At the same time, uh, when we talk about that apocalyptic poetic image in the end times, that was what it was. It was imagery.
Mm.
So I think it's a lot we got to talk about when it comes to that. But yeah, that song may get me in a little trouble in the future.
Yeah, I don't think the people who do think pieces on pastor's sermon got
Yeah,
got a chance to hear. Because when I heard it, I said, "Ooh, don't tell my
yeah.
pastor. Don't tell my pastor, because he on to something, but they ain't
It'll
ready."
come. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
well, listen, I got a little less than 4 minutes, but I wanted you to just pray over me, the show, and just send a word to anybody who's on the lemonade stand who's listening right now, because I just again believe it's from your mouth to God's ear. So.
No, I received that, man. I want to speak by faith to somebody listening right now that the last time I went to the hospital, they did an EKG. While doing that EKG, I kept noticing the lines kept jumping when it came to my heart rate. I was a little worried because it kept just jumping, jumping, jumping. And I asked the nurse, I said, "Is everything okay?" She's like, "Why you ask that?" I said, "That line just keeps jumping." She said, "No, that's your pulse." She said, "If that ever goes straight or if that ever go flat, then we're gonna have a problem."
Mm,
And it made me think about life. Life is highs and life is lows. If
mm,
life ever goes flat, that's when you got an issue. That means you're not growing. And never forget the attack from the enemy is proof that your enemies believe in you. So if
mm,
you're listening to me right now, man, I want you to realize God has a major plan for you. Don't allow your obsession to cloud your judgment and never let your ambition lead you to an ambush. Don't go places just because you're so ambitious that you have not prayed about. And to everybody listening, I just want you to know the best is yet to come. To you, Leah, I just want to speak life over you. I want to decree and declare that God has so many blessings and so many doors aligned for you, that the best is yet to come, that your name is coming up in rooms that your feet have yet to touch, that every resource, every penny you need to accomplish the things that God is calling you to do, either God's going to give you the resources for it or he's going to give you a creative idea to bypass every budget that you cannot meet. I decree and declare that God is getting ready to put you on stages and in rooms that your character and your ambition can handle. And I decree and declare that lemonade is prophetic, that you only get lemonade after the lemon has been crushed, and your season of crushing is over. Get ready to enjoy the fruit of what God is doing in Jesus' name.
Oh Lord, Amen, Hallelujah. Pastor Mike, don't make me get up and run in this studio. Okay, I got 2 feet to my left and my right, but I'm about to rip it and run it. No, but seriously, thank you so much. And again, I want to say this on record. You know, I honor you as an artist, as a pastor, but as my pastor, you've just helped me get through so much, especially during some difficult times. So again, let you never forget that you are impacting people daily, and you know, being the shepherd of your house is impacting souls. So I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me and what you do for the community and what you do for the culture and bringing my generation back to church. You know, I sent so many of my friends who are not involved in a church your messages, and you know, they're blessed by them. So again, keep doing the work. We're super proud of you. Your virtual Rock City family is super proud to call you our pastor and all your success. So congratulations and thank you for coming to the Lemonade Stand.
What city are you in?
So right now I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I was in DC when we met, but I moved.
So where are you? So right now you're recording at home?
And I'm in the studio at work.
You're in the studio at work. Yeah, so no, I love it, man. And I'm gonna give you Dre's number. His number's 205. Oh, you already hit her up? Dre hit you up. So he's gonna connect with you and all that stuff too. So we because what we're getting ready to do with Rock City, our virtual family is involving our digital family more, even when it comes to Rock City TV and different things like that. So man, I think it'd be dope if we could connect with you and start plugging you in at the church too, man. That'll help push the numbers and everything, man. So I'm excited.
I'm ready. I'm here for it. Listen, it's Rock City, baby. We in this thing.
No, we love you so much. You ever need anything, we one call away.
Okay, absolutely, Pastor Mike. Well, everybody, grab a cup, throw it back, and sip on all of that. Thank you, Pastor Mike.
I love you so much.
Love you too.